I had no desire to even want to live anymore. I didn't see a way out. I was so depressed, so unsure of myself. And now I look forward to every single day of my life. It's all surrounded by things that I know I'm on God's path and moving towards in my own life. So,
Well, welcome back to the Better Than Best Academy, where we're creating this community of champions committed to personal growth. And here on this show, you will hear firsthand stories of the next generation of creatives and entrepreneurs, those that have started businesses and doing the amazing things. You may not know them now, but you'll soon never forget them. Now, with that said, my special guest today is actually my first female guest in my show, so that's exciting. She's a child of God, a dog mama too, and a co-host of a podcast show called Fearless Queens. Her name is Sarah Elizabeth. Please tell me and the wonderful people watching what would make today's conversation extraordinary.
what would make today's conversation extraordinary? Well, depending on the topics that you want to pick up, I love talking about Jesus. I love talking about mindset, growth, and how we can get from a stuck place to how do we overcome and achieve all the goals and all our aspirations in this life that we get. So, whatever you want to dive into, I'm here for.
Yeah, let's play and let's see where this goes. Now, today I want to ask you to share your real story behind your success because I feel like it's so easy to talk about our wins and when everything works as planned. But I would love for you, as you begin to tell your story with this, really share. I want to hear about your failures and how you've learned from them.
All right. So, I am done making plans in my life because all the plans I made this year, God just laughed because they were so not aligned of what He wanted to do in my life. It was all about what I wanted to do. So at the beginning of this year, January 2nd, 4 months to the date, I was supposed to get married on April 2nd. It ended completely done. Everything that I had known was stripped away from me. No more house, no more relationship. I didn't have family around anymore. My old friends weren't there anymore. And I had just like at that time had quit my job to run my business full time for affiliated marketing. So I had so many plans, and God was like, "Nope, we're gonna strip that all away and create who I knew that you are supposed to be." So now, what we're 11 months in, and uh, I couldn't even have dreamed of what my life is now from what it was then. Like I had no desire to even want to live anymore. I didn't see a way out. I was so depressed, so unsure of myself, and now I look forward to every single day of my life. It's all surrounded by things that I know I'm on God's path and moving towards in my own life. So the struggles that I've gone through have led me to like the top of the mountains that I've reached this year, but through the valleys is where I've learned it all.
It's definitely in the valleys that we kind of become the people that we were created to be. Man, such an interesting story right off the bat. Saying, and I love that idea of how do you word it that you don't make plans anymore because God.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
Oh,
make plans because God laughs at them.
that's so funny. I would love for you to kind of explain that a little bit more and how you feel like obviously your faith in God is huge and that's a big portion of my life and plenty of the people that come on my show are definitely believers. Those listening are believers. So we can get as Jesus as we want to. So I'm all for having a good talk about Jesus. But with that said, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your faith and your walk with God there.
Yeah, so I'm the firstborn in my family, and the best thing my parents ever did for me when I was younger was they put me in a private school, and I just had that foundation right off the bat. But then 5 years later, two more siblings came along, and they're like, "Whoa, private school is expensive. We gotta drag you out." And so from there, I got it from friend groups. My family never really went to church together. We did Sunday school with my godparents at one point in my life, but it was never my family's foundation of, we're going to go to Sunday school and we're going to go to church. I always found it in other families and my friends that I was just associated with growing up. I didn't really find a relationship or understand what it meant to walk the walk of faith until I went to an event for a weekend long, basically an awakening. It's called the Indiana Dunes Great Banquet, where I met my co-host on my Fearless podcast, Tina Better. And so that's where I learned what it means to actually walk the walk and live by the word. I knew who God was my whole life, and I always believed, but there was no fruits in my life that had any sort of connection that I was living in that way, because I was still so of the world, but didn't even know it. So it switched for me. 2019, I got rebaptized. I was baptized as a child with my siblings, but that wasn't my own decision, right? But grateful for it, absolutely. But it really clicked for me that I wanted to take my life in a different direction. 2019, I got rebaptized and saved again. And then life just started changing there, because I started like working on myself, reading self-help books, realizing, once the pandemic hit, I was working from home, and I loved it, but I was doing laundry, working, like doing all the things that wasn't really um, helping me in my future growth, or like what I wanted to do. And then COVID hit again in the summer, and we were sent back to the office for 2 days a week, and then we were sent back home because COVID had hit, and they're like, nah, it's not safe yet, go back home. And I was like, okay. That's when I was like, what am I doing with my time? Because I was looking around in these cubicles, and mind you, like 2 years I had been working from home, had freedom to get up, wander, listen to music, do all the things. And then all of a sudden I was back into the 9 to 5 grind, the American dream that we're all told to do, right? And I was like, everybody was miserable. Nobody had anything nice to say. It was just complaint after complaint. And it was just not a great environment. It was just, I felt like I was in jail. And I'm like, okay, what am I doing with my time? So when we got back home, that's when I found affiliated marketing. I was scrolling on TikTok because my younger sister was like, hey, my friends and I made a TikTok, go look at it. And I was like, okay, I don't even know what this app is, but sure. Well, sure enough, a woman around my mom's age pops up on my screen, and she's talking about how she quit her 9 to 5 job. She learned how to make money online. And I'm like, whoa. So this woman's either lying or she's actually doing what she says. And long story short, I did the exact same thing, led me to quit my 9 to 5 in December. And then that's when, excuse my French, but shit hit the fan in my personal life that led me on a different path to where I'm at now, that started a podcast and all of these other things that I had no clue were was even in, the realm for me. And all to say that my walk with God has been so much stronger since 2019. And since the Indiana Dunes Great Banquet, I went October of 2021 last year. So this entire year has, like, I can say without a doubt that the person I was a year ago, 2 years ago, does not exist anymore, for the better, because of Jesus. Absolutely.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about your podcast. How'd that get
Yeah.
started?
Whoa. So total God thing. It's so funny. My best friend, she took a traveling position at the beginning of the year, and I went down with her to Connecticut to move. We are in Indiana. So we did the 12-hour drive to Connecticut. And she reminded me last night when I was talking to her about my podcast, she's like, don't you remember at the beginning of the year, you said, oh, like you like affiliated marketing because I teach people how to make money online, but my passion was just not there for that. I'm like, if I have this platform, I want to be talking about things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And then met Tina through the Great Banquet. She actually had a podcast run like a year or two ago, but it just ran short because her partner was kind of wishy-washy, not really like on the gung-ho of doing this for like all in. And so we had been trying to connect about what affiliated marketing is, how we could work together for probably like 6 to 8 months, but it just never aligned. And then all of a sudden, I don't even know how it started. She was volunteering at a recovery center in one of the towns by us, and they have a podcasting room. And I think that was where the idea was like, oh, like maybe we could use that. And then we went to dinner and just started talking, and we're like, well, what would we call it? What would we talk about? What can we offer? And that's where Fearless Queens was kind of born, because faith over fear. We fear less. not that we don't have fear. I mean, I'm a human still, and so is she, everybody else is, but you learn that, it's mind over matter. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you, and learning that your mind, like, you control your thoughts. What are you thinking about? Are they serving you? Are they not? And that's kind of where it all started. And she has such her own story. She's been on like a sobriety recovery journey. She just has so much to offer, as do I. Like, I just, all the things I've gone through in my own life, that we both felt we could come together and serve such a audience in a way, because she's 14 years older than me, so you don't really see 20-year-olds like in their 20s and in their 40s hanging out.
Yeah.
But there's just such an alignment that God has us in place, and it just, everything fell through. So, like, I couldn't even make it up. My sister, who became my roommate this year, is my editor. Like, she lives across the hall. I couldn't even make that up. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing in the editing realm. I just wanted to speak and have it out there. So then the podcasting room just fell into our laps. A co-host fell into my lap. We actually just have another gentleman join our team to help us monetize and figure out, how to make a buck on a podcast,
Yeah.
because as much as I love to serve, I also need to pay my own bills.
Yeah.
So it's just been a whirlwind, but I couldn't make up the connections that I've gotten for this. That's why I know I'm on the path I'm supposed to be on, because it's all just folding so beautifully for me.
Come on. Won't he do it? And that's so similar to even my podcast. And to share a little bit of my journey with you is I started podcasting probably in 2018, right towards the end of a 10-year rap career, which is a whole nother story that
Oh,
my people have probably heard enough of me saying this lately. But so I've been in the podcast game for a little bit, and it started solo, and then here probably month 2 months ago I started having guests. And with me it's not a co-host, it's just me and whoever I can find. And it's crazy because I was on a guy's podcast and he was like, why don't you do a podcast like what we're doing right now? I'm like, I guess. So I started it, and everyone I've asked has said yes. So I'm like, this is all right, God, here we go. So here we are with this. But yeah, I love that. And a big thing in my business that I've been growing, just mentoring and coaching creative people. I love to see people come alive with their passion. And just a sidebar, it's great seeing you talk about this new passion of yours with your podcast, and just seeing you on fire for God, because I rededicated my life back in 2011. So I've been really involved in my church. I play drums for my worship team. I'm there. Like, God is me serving the local church is huge in my life. So I always love to see that. And I think you're doing a great job from what I can tell. The little bit I've seen kind of from a distance. So it's so cool to see you doing that. I would love to hear, so now that you are on fire for God and you're really leaning into your passions, I would love to ask you, so what is the legacy you want to leave in this world?
I just want everybody that meets me, that I remind them of Jesus. Like, I'm a nobody trying to tell somebody, or trying to tell everybody all about somebody. Like, it's not me who's doing this. Like, it is God within me that is having the fruits of the labor being brought out into my life. It's really not me. And if people can see the spirit of God within me everywhere I go, like, if I'm kind, generous, all of the fruits of the spirit, right? That's what I want to leave behind. That I was known as a child of God, that I had a servant heart, and I just, when I get to heaven, he tells me, well done, my good and faithful servant. That's all I want in life.
I love that. I love that. So you said that your affiliate marketing is kind of how you started to get into your entrepreneur journey, I guess you could say. And you
Yes.
said that it's not necessarily something that you're most passionate about, correct?
Yes.
What do you think it is? I feel like that's such a launching pad, because I did a little bit of affiliate marketing when I first started too. But it's funny because I mean, some people, that's their thing, like that's their bread and butter. They love it forever. So I'm just curious, What do you think was your main takeaways from starting as affiliate marketing that you now are putting towards your future passions in business?
The core of what affiliated marketing is, how to start a business. That was key. I mean, legendary marketer is where I found what affiliated marketing was. It's what how I learned all of the skills, what email marketing was, what a link in your bio was, how to create that, how to set up a landing page, all of the things that now help me promote my podcast, that help me promote still helping people make money online, teaching people, those core entities of how to start a business. And it really gave me the foundation of this is the mindset you need to have in order to switch from entrepreneurship to the 9 to 5, because they're two totally different things. And we've been programmed our entire lives, like you go to school, you're on a time frame, and then you leave, you clock in, you clock out, you get your paycheck, and you're always on somebody else's time, you're always making somebody else rich, and then you do not have, I mean, you can do whatever you want in the rest of the time, but majority of people aren't gonna, their Saturdays and Sundays, they want to relax or go to the bars, whatever. But that's when I was like, what am I doing with my time? I need to figure out how I'm not going to be working the rest of my life for corporate America until I'm 56 years old. There was just no way I saw myself doing that. So I so grateful for affiliated marketing teaching me all of these things, because it has led me to figuring out my other pathways, like all the things that have the podcast and just my hobbies that I have now, because I realize like if I can do this, what else can I do?
And it's so funny. We do have a similar path. As I'm listening to your story, I'm thinking back, it was probably the end of last year that I started getting into affiliate marketing from Legendary. And then from there, I started seeing this guy named Brad and this girl named Nina pop up on my TikTok everywhere. And sure enough, I'm like, man, what is this? And then next thing you know, I'm a part of their like coaching mentorship, learning how to be a coach myself. And you went through the same thing. Shout out CBF fam. But man, and I love that. But I heard you mention mindset, which I mean that's right there what I love to talk about. Next to my faith in Jesus is mindset. And I'd love for you to just share what's been the biggest thing that you've been learning about lately when it comes to your mindset.
You are the sorry, my AirPod stopped working, but you literally everything that you think becomes your reality. So what you're thinking, your thoughts become your words become your actions, and your actions become your habits. Good, bad, ugly, beautiful, no matter what, like subconsciously, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's why the Bible says, watch what you say. Your tongue has the power to kill or to like live, essentially. So that for me, because I used to see the entire world, like I was the glass half full type of person. I was very bitter, angry, not who I am today, thank God. But learning that I was the one holding myself back changed everything for me, because it's not the external. You want everybody wants to change everything else around them, but nobody wants to turn inward and be like, okay, I'm the only common denominator in every aspect of my life, in every relationship I'm in. So what is it about me that I'm bringing to the table that is causing all of these different things to not align the way I'm wanting them to? So I started I think the first self-help book I read was Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. And she is a podcaster as well. I had the privilege of going to see her live last month in Cincinnati. Yeah, she's awesome. And she's a godly woman as well. But uh, I'm like, if she can do all these things, I can do all these things. Like just having somebody else walk the path ahead of me has been amazing. Like all my mentors online, Joyce Meyer, I didn't even know a woman preached until I had a Bible study teacher of mine show me her. And I was like,
Wow.
oh my gosh, this woman is like walked so much ahead of me in life. And now I just like crave everything that she does, because it's so many lessons that now I'm hopefully won't do, because she's been around that same mountain so many times that I can take the lessons she's learned and not do it that way. So also finding people that were serving me, because I didn't have that in my own life. Like I didn't have friends or family to lean on to help me change. I found it in other ways because as soon as I started changing from within, it was poking at all of them because it was a reflection of what they weren't doing in their life. So I lost a lot of people. And, I have to believe that not everybody is meant for an entirety of your life. They're meant for a season, and it's always a lesson and a great value, but not everybody's meant to be in your life for forever.
To piggyback off what you were saying, you mentioned when you almost do like a full 180 and your life changes when you start going after God, you tend to see that and even when you're going after personal development, because I know some people that listen out there may not even be really big in their faith, but they're big into their personal growth. When you flip that switch, you're definitely going to lose some people. And I loved it. I loved the way that my pastor put it, because we planted a church 8 years ago now, and our beginning launch team, not all of them are still with us. And I love the way that he put it. And he said that, some people are more like scaffolding and some people are like pillars. And it's that idea that sometimes through our life, through different seasons, people are there to help you get to a space, but they're not there to get you to the next space. But then there's those people that are that pillar that are always going to be there. And man, yeah, I can definitely attest to that through my many different journeys in life. I've definitely seen some people come and go. Another thing I love that you mentioned too is you didn't realize that women preached. And
No.
a lot of times in different circles you don't get that. I have the privilege of my pastors are a husband wife team, and they're both on fire. One church in Caddo Mills, Texas. I know it's a little tiny town for those listening and watching, but man, like I am the man I am today because of my pastors, and I can't stress that enough how important it is to surround yourself with that community, because it's another thing you mentioned is the right people, and the right people in your circle is really what's going to change and impact where you go. And
Absolutely.
I think that's great. Even how you mentioned that you found your podcast co-host, and how that whole thing happened, and how you're around people like that. I would love to get your thoughts on how important community is in personal growth.
It is detrimental. Like you need people there to help you, to guide you, to support you. If you're not getting it from your circle that you're surrounded with now, you're not going to grow as much as you could be if you were associating with the people that are further along than you, because you are the average of the 5 people you associate yourself with. And if your 5 people are super comfortable with being comfortable, they don't have any drive, they just are stagnant in life. They every weekend they're just looking forward to going out, or they are just super content with, the lifestyle that they have. And it's great, not everybody is going to think and act the way that you personally will, but it's finding those other like-minded people to help guide you in that direction so you don't stay where everybody else is comfortable, because comfortability is stagnicity. And you need to, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to chase after your dreams, you have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. That is the number one thing I have learned. Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree 100%. And it also goes to that idea of you have to be willing to hold tension. It's like and it's derived even off the word being intentional. And it's that idea of being intention, because so many times we are afraid of that idea of being uncomfortable. But it's like your destiny's right outside your comfort zone. And a lot of people don't realize that. And if you're listening to this podcast, then more than likely you've already begun to figure that out. But it's so good to be reminded of that.
I'm learning patience right now, and I'm learning to walk by faith and not by sight, because I don't see all the things that I know are happening for me behind the scenes that God has planned for me. But I know that my faith has never been stronger, and that I've never been more disciplined in His word, the way I live, that there's just no way that those blessings aren't coming. So I'm being attacked. I know that without a doubt, Satan tries to get in my mind and get external things, get my old people in my past to come back up to the surface. And it's like, not today, Satan, not tomorrow either. So each and every day is its own battle in itself, but I really have to remember, like, God feeds the birds. God knows who I am. So why am I worried about tomorrow? Like, we are told don't worry about tomorrow. Today has enough worry in itself. So it's really learning to enjoy the journey, because for so long, and it's still a learning process. I think it always will be for me, because I'm very much type A. I want to get everything done this instant and I want to see it happen right now. And that's just not how life works, even though we've all been programmed to think that it does work. Like, nobody has patience anymore. You can get Amazon or Uber Eats like delivered like that nowadays. And there's no connection, or like no oh my goodness, like, I've been waiting and waiting and it's finally here. Like, thank you so much. Like, you don't have that anticipation anymore, because you have that instant gratification. And I just, that's where I'm at. I mean, just prayer, huge. I think if anybody could do anything for everybody, is just to pray more for everything in their life, this country, the generations behind us, all of that.
And I love how you said that. You said that it's the ability to be content in the present. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned even here recently, is that idea of slowing down. Because again, we're bombarded from the second we wake up with tons of different emotions. Like, we can get on TikTok for 5 minutes and feel every gamma of emotions in less than 5 minutes, honestly. And it leaves us so drained. And that's why I believe, and that's even when I'm helping my clients, is a lot of times, especially high achievers, us, like you said, type A, those people that are so future focused, one of the hardest things we have to do is schedule that rest and schedule that time to slow down. And I can share a little bit, like, one practical thing that's helped me so much is in my personal devotional time, because that's huge. Like, if you consider yourself a Christian, getting into the Word and praying, like you mentioned, is literally your bread and butter and should be the first thing on your mind. And I got into this space because, I mean, I've been following God for forever, it feels like now. And I got into this space where it got really gamified with the Bible app, which the Bible app is an amazing tool. Definitely not going to knock it. But for me, as a type 3 in the Enneagram and as someone that really likes to check my boxes off, it began to be that for me. And one day I just felt like God was saying, put down the app, put down the phone, and just open your actual physical Bible, which right now it's sitting underneath my computer so you can see me at the right height, but it's not far from me. And that's literally one of the first things I do. And if I could give any tips for those listening at home, is devote yourself to that quiet time. Like,
Absolutely.
devote yourself to getting away from all of the distractions and simply sit down and make time for you and God, and you'll see amazing benefits, far surpassing any of your creative or your career things. That's going to be the core of it all. We can sit there and talk about a bunch of practical tools to get to your success, but if you're not doing that real deep inner work, then you're not going to really get to that next level. And it goes back to even what you mentioned earlier about finding yourself. And a big portion of what I like to help my clients do is discover that identity. Because as those high performers, as those high achievers, it's so easy for us to get caught up into what we do. And we aren't
Mhm.
what we do. We're who we are and whose we are, as I like to always say it.
I am so similar to you, because I'm a type 1 on the Enneagram, so I like to check the boxes off too. And I was feeling that way as well, because I was doing I was doing the Bible plan, like, read it for 365 days, and then I was doing all the other kind of plans, like, for the mood I was in that day. And then I was just, like, overwhelmed by everything that I had to check off for that day. So I have gotten into my own, like, opening the Bible, like you said, journaling. I have Joyce Meyer books now. Like, there's more to just the Bible app. And actually opening, like, you can get it so many different ways. It's just taking that first part of your day and giving it to God, because then he forms the rest of your day. And I just finished a book over the weekend called Fasting, and I didn't realize how powerful and how much we are required as Christians to fast. I didn't even know that really existed until I finished that book, and it was so good that I just couldn't stop until I knew the beginning and the end of it. And if we're called to pray, give, and fast. And I was missing such a portion of that. And so now I definitely am equipping it into my life moving forward, because I'm missing out on so many blessings or and the strongholds and the generational curses that are no longer like a part of me. Like my mantra in life is, it ran in my family until it ran into me. I'm going to do everything in my power through God to never have that again moving forward.
Come on, man, that book is so important. Fasting
Yes,
by Jensen Franklin, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, I worked for a like digital ministry for 4 years. It was a YouTube channel and she was on Daystar. Stuff like that. That was my again another little sidebar of my story, but I say that to say that part of working there was a lot of personal development, and that's honestly where I started getting into that space of, writing the vision, making it plain, Habakkuk 2:2, and like realizing how much personal growth and mindset is tied to scripture. A lot of people don't realize that, especially those
It's
that
all one.
yeah, especially those that get caught up in other things. But I say that to say that we read that book at the beginning of every year, and we would like go through chapters. Would discuss it in our different departments of the ministry, but also we would fast. And it's crazy, so many people don't realize the importance of fasting, because right now you hear it from like a health holistic space where you intermittent fast, it's great for your body. But again, I love the way God works, because He's literally in our DNA, down to our DNA, and it's that idea of like it all comes full circle. But the spiritual aspects of fasting are, man, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it, and it's great to hear that you've read that and you're getting to experience like the full spectrum of the Christian life, because a lot of times we don't realize that. I've gotten so used to my space and being in it for so long that you almost get numb to the fact that like we walk with such abundance. But when you see it through new eyes, it's so cool to see. So I'll say that from my perspective, hearing you tell your firsthand story of it is so cool to hear. But it's that idea of, yeah, like all of God's promises are yes and amen, and it's like we get so tied into the minutia of what's happening in the world that we lose sight of the fact that we have a God on our side that is so much greater than any of our small little inconvenient struggles. Is there any questions you have for me? I know I always love to ask that to my people on the show, because it's interesting to see their perspective.
Yeah. So what made you like ask me to be on your show?
Oh man, what was it? I saw a Facebook post, I think, and I saw where you were saying that you started a podcast. And then I remembered you from, excuse me, I remember you from being in the group calls on CBF, and I was like, she looks familiar. I think I know her. And then I saw all your posts about God and your faith, and I was like, this is cool. This is interesting. And whatever it means, because I mean, I'm definitely being prayerful in who I reach out to, but also at the same time I'm just like, maybe this works. It's kind of like that gut intuition thing that obviously it's the Holy Spirit, but sometimes when you're not thinking of it in the moment, you're just kind of acting on it. And I was just like, let me reach out to Sarah and see what she's up to, if she would be a part of the podcast.
I so appreciate it. And I love that, because for me, I know that the Holy Spirit is guiding all the doors that are opening. And I was like, if I'm not saying yes, I have been saying yes so much this year to things that are aligning with this path. I'm like, how could I not do this?
For
What
sure.
an opportunity that has been in front of me. Like,
Come
absolutely. So thank you.
Come on. Yeah. And we'll link all your stuff in the description, Like go show Sarah some love, go subscribe, do all the things. I always get so tired and you get it too being a podcast host, I'm sure. You get so tired of being that person, being like, subscribe, share, comment. But those listening at home, that's literally how these grassroots movements of podcasts are going. Like for me right now, one of the podcasts I love listening to is The Basement by Tim Ross. I don't know if you've heard of it. His podcast is crazy because he started maybe the middle of this year and it's just blown up.
It only takes it takes one
Yeah,
episode, it takes one
really
video.
is.
I had 0 followers on TikTok, and then all of a sudden I had, almost 40,000. So, I mean, it starts with 1 and it
Yeah.
continues to grow. Like what you water will flourish and grow. What you put in is what you'll get out in anything in life. So, if you're only doing this partially, you're only going to get partial the stuff. If you're only going to church Sunday, you're only getting the benefits of hearing somebody preach on Sunday. You're missing out on everything else in life. And that's everything.
That's so good. And also to kind of bounce off of that is with those people out there that may have been doing this and doing it consistently, whether it's being content creators or your musicians or whatever it may be, and you're not seeing the fruits of your labor yet, don't despise it and don't give up. Because I can say I started my TikTok at the beginning of this year and it took months to even get to that first 1,000 followers. But it's within that, it's the connections that you're making. Because it becomes such vanity metrics to a degree if we're not careful. So then we get into this space of like chasing likes and followers, but if that's not really creating that community and that's not really creating that impact, then what is it for? Because oh man, there was this one story from this one pastor, and he was a youth pastor, and when he was a youth pastor he had five students, like for a long span of time. That was how many people was in his full youth ministry for his church. And if you look at from our perspective and what we see, and it can be such a numbers game, we get into that space of thinking, oh man, he only had 5 people. What kind of impact could he make? And those people in there was Judah Smith, and a few other fairly big names in the Christian world, which I'm sure you know Judah Smith. And it's just to think about that is like Judah Smith's impact is global. But if you go down the line, you see that ripple effect. So if you show up and you're speaking to the one person in front of you and you're serving them and serving them well, then you've already won and you've already reached the success that you're hoping to attain. I definitely circle back to say that I just felt that strong. I felt like someone hearing this in this moment needed to be reminded of that even if your impact seems small number wise, don't despise who you are reaching and really lean into those people that you are impacting. Because, I mean, disciple cycles, like we've heard it said that way, but like whoever you're bringing with you, you don't know who they're going to bring with them.
Exactly. If you change yourself, you're then having the ripple effect of other people changing. Like, oh, if they can do it, if I can do it, they can do it. If they can do it, what's stopping me? So, exactly what you said. It takes one person to change everything. So, and you can be that one person. Just don't give up on yourself. Don't let fear take hold of you, because that's what the enemy wants. He wants you to live in fear forever, so you don't ever reach the plans that God has for you, because he knows how powerful they are.
So good. So good. Come on. I need the buttons that have the sound effects. The bomb drop or the applause. That would be great. Maybe in next year's season I'll upgrade a little bit. But Sarah, man, thank you so much for taking some time and having a conversation with me. And
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.
for sure, before I close out, I mean, again, I would love to ask you: is there any way that like I can help you or serve you in what you're doing?
Keep me in your prayers, like I said. thank you for mentioning my podcast on your site. If you like what we had to share, subscribe, like all those things. But I'm glad to have, another friend in Christ. So I'm rooting for you over here in Indiana. And I'm actually going to Texas at the beginning of December. So I'll be spreading my joy that way too.
Hey, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, with that said, I'll close like I always love to close. You listening and watching know that I love to end it this way, is that I love you, friend. I'm praying for you. Now let's go live better than best as we conquer this week.